You're watching News Central now on News Central Television. I am Lekon Onobanjo. The top stories at this hour. President Bola Tinubu to co-chair 11th Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission session with President Ramaphosa. Terrorists strike Zamfara state, kill elderly, abduct 13. Namibian opposition leader accuses the presidential electoral process of being marred by chaos and alleged foul play. Details to come your way shortly. News Central now at this hour begins with our coverage of this developing story. Investigative journalist Fisayo Shoyombo has recounted his experience during the detention ordeal with the Nigerian Army 6th Division in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Speaking as a guest on News Central's Breakfast Extra, he criticized the army for leaking everything he shared with them to the illegal oil bunkers. The Nigerian Army, after the report of Shoyombo's arrest by the 6th Division, confirmed the arrest, linking the investigative journalist with illegal oil bunkering.
The investigative reporter was released after 3 days in detention and intense social media pressure on the army. He shared his experience while speaking as a guest on News Central's Breakfast Extra on Sunday. He explained that he was taken by soldiers while conducting an undercover investigation into the activities of illegal oil bunkers in the country.
The plan, as I've done with previous stories, I need to emphasize, as I've done with previous stories, the plan was always to go through the entire process and, as a result, obtain hard evidence, So it was also to go to them and say, okay, I'm trying to do this business. They gave me a budget of 18 to 22 to 23 million naira. I first have to go and look for that money. Yes. So I got connected to the bunkers. We had meetings. I first flew to Port Harcourt. I have one meeting, we talked, went back, they went to look for the money, and then we kicked off. We had to rent a truck. We had to speak with those who would steal the crude. We had to find a date. So the plan was to get the crude and to go sell in Enugu.
According to him, the illegal bunkers have some top officials of the Nigerian military as collaborators.
I was taken into 6th Div around evening. We got there maybe like 4 or 5, and I told them straight away that I wasn't an oil bunker. I was an investigative journalist and private detective. And I was shocked that when I got out Friday evening, I was, to my shock, bunkers were telling me who I was. Like, they called us from 6th Div. I'm quoting the smuggler, he said it in pidgin. Said they called us from 6th Div and said, where did we find you? That you are an investigator. His exact words, that you are an investigator. We now started checking your profile. We saw interviews you granted TV stations. Is that true? This is a very serious situation that the army gets, let's even say that I'm an oil bunker, gets a suspect and you interrogate him. And at the point of release, oil bunkers
have your intel.
Knew almost all the things he told you.
The founder of Foundation for Investigative Journalism cried the decay in the country's security structure. He stated that oil bunkering may not stop in Nigeria unless complete overhauling of the system takes place.
It cannot stop. It cannot stop because what needs to be done for it to stop will not be done.
Who is involved?
The most powerful people in this country. The most powerful people in this country. Don't forget, the level that I investigated was, the level of going to steal crude from the pipelines and passing it into trucks. We haven't talked about the ships that come into the country, lift crude, unaccounted for. We haven't even reached that point. Just at the point of people going to, steal crude from pipeline, attach hoses, and divert to, and then you get to the headquarters of the army in the South, and you speak, and everything is out. It tells you that some of the highest people in security, in armed forces are involved. And of course, if people like that are involved, then the political powers are involved as well.
Continuing, Soyombo said the statement by the Nigerian army linking him to illegal bunkering network has compromised his security, expressing concern for his safety. Soyombo also hinted on possibly stepping back from undercover journalism. He said the recent experience may not change his approach to future stories, but he was aware he's running out of time.
Well, to discuss this, we are joined by a public affairs analyst, Theophilus Akatuba. Theophilus, good evening to you.
Good evening to you. Pleasure to be here.
All right. Of course, you just listened to Fisayo spill the beans as regards his ordeal with the Nigerian army. How does this, incident highlight the risks and challenges faced by investigative journalists in Nigeria, particularly, when being exposed to sensitive issues like illegal oil bunkering? And we see that they are the ones who seem to be used as scapegoats in situations like this.
Yes, I tell you, in a country where crime, such level of corruption, such level of illicit and illegal activities are taking place at the very core of the country's economic, live wire, you can be sure that whoever is doing investigation or investigative journalism in a country like Nigeria faces great risk. And this is why you have a dearth of them. You don't have so many people in that field of journalism, that aspect of journalism. I could immediately feel the danger that he faces, especially when he's going to the jugular. You remember that Tom Polo recently accused the Navy of involving bunkering and involving oil theft, and the Navy quickly denounced it and denied. If our security agencies are not compromised in all of these issues, many of the problems we dealt in this country would have been resolved. So it is simply a revelation of something we have always suspected. Very dangerous activity by Soyombo there. And I hope that the country mean business to protect men like
And now there have been talks around the need to reform, the Nigerian security sector to effectively combat illegal activities like oil bunkering and some other forms and vices, happening in the country. But then would that be possible looking at the level of high power actors in these illegal activities in the country?
There's nothing impossible if a nation is determined. We can't continue to run the country and be at the mercy of criminals. Anyone who is a criminal, no matter how highly placed, must be dealt with if the country must be seen to make some kind of progress and secure its economic, lifeblood. However, the fact that they are there means that the Nigerian security architecture need to be completely, overhauled, because they are all enmeshed in all manner of corrupt practices, illicit affairs, and this is why the country continues to suffer in many aspects of its life. This is why insurgency cannot be dealt with. This is why stay at home in the East cannot be resolved. This is why everything that we recognize as a problem. Why do you think kidnapping has become a business in South and in many parts of the country? Because the security personnel and everyone in actors are involved one way or the other.
Okay, so now that we are seeing this play out, I mean, it's something that has been on for a couple of times all over the country in different shades. How do you think incidents like this would impact the way the Nigerian army is being perceived, and even the security architecture is being perceived? Could it erode public trust, and can that trust be rebuilt between the public, the people, and these agencies or these, security architectural bodies?
Yeah, it is a very dangerous situation if the very person who is supposed to protect you is the one that is attacking you. If it's a very sad situation, if the military that is supposed to protect the integrity, the sovereign integrity of the country, the sovereignty of the country, is involved in activities that undermine the safety, the progress of that country. In many nations of the world, the army has been seen to come in to stabilize if there is instability. So if your military and your security personnel are involved in criminal activities, in fact, the level of confidence loss cannot be, can only be understated. It's a very big thing, it's a very big problem. And I think that government must look at it and we must take drastic steps. This is one of the areas where I felt President Buhari failed a lot because I expected him to do a lot more than he did in his fight against corruption. I expected him to reform the police, the military, and every other security apparatus, if at all he wanted to convince Nigerians that he was fighting corruption.
And so, what do you make? What do you make of this administration now in terms of how they're trying to deal with issues around corruption? We've seen a few arrests. I mean, different parastatals, different agencies. Although we've not seen full prosecution of the law or the wrath of the law come hard down on these culprits, so to speak. But then, are you optimistic that there could be a change in this current administration?
Well, I believe the present government is trying to use intelligence, is trying to use technology, but that will not be enough. Look at what Soyombo has just confronted. The ring, the network of oil bunkering in Nigeria is so huge. In fact, I tell people, a lot of the very wealthy people in this country, they are all involved in one criminal activity or the other underground. Because if the kind of wealth individuals exude or showcase in Nigeria is connected to actual productivity, this country's GDP should be greater than it is. Unfortunately, we are very unproductive, but many wealthy people.
That's the irony of Nigeria. Quite paradoxical, I must say. Thank you so much, Theophilus Akaktuba, for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Bye. Yeah.
All right, bye. We talk politics now. The camps of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi have dismissed rumors of discussions for a joint ticket ahead of the 2027 presidential election. Speculation erupted on social media after photos surfaced of Atiku hosting Obi for breakfast at his residence in Adamawa State. Atiku later shared a video of the meeting on his official X account, captured, and I quote, a caption rather, and I quote, it is breakfast time with my friend Peter Obi in the land of beauty, end of quote. The footage showed both leaders seated at a dining table, accompanied by others ready to share a meal. This meeting comes a month after the deputy national spokesperson of the PDP, Ibrahim Abdullahi, hinted on a live political program that opposition leaders were exploring a potential merger to rescue the nation from collapse. However, both camps have firmly denied any formal talks about a joint ticket. Still on politics, a House of Representatives member, Ikenga Ugochinyere, has alleged plans for a major merger ahead of Nigeria's 2027 elections. Speaking in his Idiato hometown, Ugochinyere accused some PDP leaders of secretly collaborating with the APC to weaken the opposition. He revealed that discussions for a strong alliance aimed at unseating the APC are underway, emphasizing the need to protect the PDP structure. Ugochinyere called out those engaging in what he described as childish politics and urged party stakeholders to stay resilient. On constituency matters, he assured progress on water projects, scholarships, and infrastructure, aiming and affirming his commitment to campaign promises. Ugochinyere encouraged PDP members to remain steadfast, stating the party's role as Africa's largest opposition that cannot be undermined. Earlier, a public affairs analyst, Jide Ojo, spoke to us on this development.
It's possible, provided that they will swallow their ego and work for collective interest of their new merger. This was what they should have done well ahead of 2023 elections, which they failed to achieve. And there are school of thoughts that believe that if Peter Obi did not leave PDP, and Kwankwaso did not leave PDP for NNPP, the fortune of PDP returning to power in 2023 was one of their brightest chances. But they lost that because a house divided against itself cannot stand. You saw Peter Obi moving to Labour Party in May of 2022, and then Kwankwaso leaving for NNPP. And then you have five governors of PDP that refused to work for the presidential candidate of the party. So that was part of the reason why they lost the presidential election of last year. So if they have learned their lessons and they decide to form a merger, the question now is that the merger that those who will make a formidable merger for them are themselves in crisis.
Yeah.
Labour Party is still having leadership crisis. NMPP is having its own leadership crisis. And PDP itself is having its own leadership crisis. For them to really be taken serious as a formidable opposition to APC, they need some house cleaning, they need some housekeeping, they need to first resolve their own internal challenge, after which they can now reach out to other strong opposition parties. Because you ask, what is Labour Party bringing to the table in this whole merger? It has only one governor, and even the only governor he has, the party has, is playing Esau and Jacob with himself.
You're watching News Central now. We go on a short break. When we return, as insecurity concerns worsen, terrorists have attacked Zamfara, killing an elderly and abducting 13. We have the details, and we will bring it to you in a short while. Join us again. Many thanks for staying with us. We tell you that President Bola Tinubu will leave France on Monday for Cape Town, South Africa, to co-chair the 11th session of the Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission alongside President Cyril Ramaphosa. The presidential BNC, of course, scheduled for Tuesday, December 3, will be preceded by a ministerial meeting on December 2, 2024 at the South African Parliament building in Cape Town. Tinubu and Ramaphosa will engage in substantive talks on a wide range of issues of mutual interest, including bilateral, regional, and international matters. Following Ramaphosa's inauguration for a second term in office, the two leaders will revisit the progress made since the 10th session of the BNC, which took place in Abuja from November 29 to December 1, 2021, and build on the commitments made at their June 20, 2024 meeting in Johannesburg. Now, we'll tell you that the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, has ordered an investigation into allegations of salary deductions affecting paramilitary officers in the country. According to an online report, some officers expressed concerns over deductions from their salaries by the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System. They equally complain about delays in the payment of promotion arrears. In a statement released on Sunday, Ahmed Jafaru, the Secretary of the Civil Defense, Correctional, Fire and Immigration Services Board, gave the impacted officers the assurance that an inquiry had been initiated to find out what caused the purported deductions. He also appealed for patience as the matter is being addressed. Let's now tell you that Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has urged President Bola Tinubu to direct the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, and the Accountant General of the Federation, Oluwatoyin Shakirat Madin, to disclose the specific names of the companies and contractors who collected over 167 billion naira from 31 ministries, departments, and agencies, but failed to execute any project. SERAP is also seeking the details of the projects for which the contractors collected the billion naira sum, about 167 of it, and the proposed locations, as well as the number of contractors involved and the amounts collected by each contractor. The Office of the Auditor General of the Federation's recently published 2021 audited report details these damning facts. Away from that, business experts in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, have called on youths to embrace entrepreneurship as an alternative to unemployment. Speaking in an entrepreneurship summit themed Cultivating Young People for Tomorrow's Economy, they say young Nigerians must move away from the dependence on white-collar jobs, embrace mentorship, and tap into available potentials in the nation's thriving business sector.
I had a very beautiful job in the bank. I have a car to myself. I have everything, but there was I questioning my maker. How did I get here? You told me there was a vision. You told me there was an assignment. And I tell you this morning, when God gives you a true idea, true purpose, it doesn't take you up first. It takes you down first to build process, to build resilience, to build capacity to withstand the challenges and trials that will come after the ideas. Because it is our decision, our choice for us to unveil the processes.
People need to understand that they competed with over 5 million or 500 million sperm that left their father, and they were the one that caught life. So you are not here to try to win. You've been winning, just that you need to continue winning.
Are you going to be at the best advantage of the data or against the data? So everybody needs to realize that you need to work not based on trends, but based on statistics and data. And if you have that at the back of your mind, I think you will pull through. Whatever bad, look, from generation to generation, our father had their own bad times. We're going to have our own bad time. This is not only going to be the only bad time we're going to have. Many are still coming. But you must fortify yourself. You must know what to do. Knowledge is key.
To other matters now, gender-based violence cases are on the rise in Kaduna State, with over 1,259 incidents reported by November 2024, marking a 30% increase from last year. Kano State also reported 244 cases in 2023, underscoring a growing regional concern. This troubling trend was discussed during a meeting of women Muslim preachers from Kano and Kaduna held as part of the 16 days of activism against GBV, organized by Development Research and Project Center and Bayero University Center for Islamic Civilization with Ford Foundation support. The event focused on using Islamic teachings to combat gender-based violence. Experts stressed the role of religious leaders in reshaping cultural norms and highlighted initiatives like a study tour to Al-Azhar in Egypt, aimed at equipping leaders to challenge harmful practices and promote women's rights through faith-based advocacy. To discuss this, we are joined by Titilola Vivo Adeni, the Executive Secretary, Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency. Thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so you're the Executive Secretary, Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency. So let's bring the conversation to our domain first. What is the level of reported cases of GBV in Lagos State as we speak, and how does this reflect broader regional, maybe national trends?
Okay, so on average, we attend to between 300 to 350 cases monthly. These are cases that people come in to report officially, or we get via our toll-free line, or we get through our various social media platforms. And if you look at our trajectory, if you look at where we're coming from, in the past 2-3 years, we used to provide services to about 100 and 150 clients monthly. So we've seen, almost double of that number coming in formally. But we know we've not even scratched the surface, because these issues, continue to remain some of the most underreported crimes, not just in Lagos, Nigeria, but globally. So yes, we can appreciate, the increase in reporting that is being recorded in these states that you mentioned, Kano and Kaduna. And I believe that it's attributable to different factors.
Yeah, so let's look at the factors, because if we are recording, a rise from 150 to 300 in a month in Southwest, and we're seeing more than 1,200 in the northern region, we need to understand what the causes are, because we know that there have been campaigns and advocacy against this. So why is it still increasing? What are the factors?
So these issues have always been there. What we're seeing is a combination of increase in formal and informal reporting, which can link it to heightened awareness. When you create awareness, you create advocacy about an issue, there's a likelihood that people will, try to access that service that you said you offer. So when we create awareness, when we do advocacy, we go to the community, universities, we do grassroots mobilization, we have seen that shortly after that, there is a spike in cases being reported. And so awareness is, creating awareness is one of the reasons. There's also, the use of social media. Social media is a useful tool in heightening awareness about an issue and also giving a platform to people who would hitherto not have reported, to be able to send a DM or just make a post. And then people that see the post tag relevant organizations. There's also, I think, across the country, there's an increase in political will that is being demonstrated by the different states. I mean, during COVID, domestic violence, sexual violence was referred to as a shadow pandemic. And during that period, aside from the increase in cases coming through, there was a declaration of state of emergency by the Governors Forum and even by the Mr. President at that time. And so since then, states have been encouraged to adopt relevant laws like the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, set up similar structures as we have in Lagos State, response teams, all this is, is coming together.
Okay.
And these are some of the reasons why we're seeing increase, in formal and informal reporting. But let's not make any mistake about this. These issues have always been there. What we're seeing now is that we are gradually breaking the culture of silence.
Okay.
People are becoming more encouraged to speak up. There's increased faith in the system, hence, the reportage.
Okay, so that actually explains the underreporting that you mentioned earlier. So now we cannot take it away from the fact that there are cultural or religious norms, practices or dictates that actually support GBV. So how do we now begin to draw in religious leaders, societal, what do you call them now, CSOs and leaders of thoughts to begin to address these religious or cultural norms or backings that help people premise their acts upon when they commit this violence against, most especially the female gender?
Indeed. So we're all a product of our socialization, right? It's what we're brought up with, either culturally, what we saw, in the society, or what we're exposed to by virtue of our faith, our religion. So we know of a truth that religious institutions, religious leaders, community leaders play a pivotal role in preventing or encouraging the perpetration of gender-based violence. And we've seen it because sometimes religious leaders serve as first responders. They are in a position of authority. These are people that if their congregation, if they say, give an instruction to a member of their congregation, there's a very high likelihood that member will do as he or she has been told, And so we know that sometimes survivors approach religious leaders for guidance, for counsel, for advice, if they're experiencing, gender-based violence or particularly domestic violence. And typically, the usual response is, the Bible says, the Quran says, wife submit and all of that. God hates divorce, mediate.
And forgive and forget.
What we're saying is that there comes a time where religious institutions, religious leaders must have interface with government or with other relevant organizations, such as non-governmental organizations that work in this thematic area. As a religious cleric, you can't keep mediating on the same couple every month. This person keeps reporting and she's coming with a black eye today, a broken leg tomorrow, and you keep mediating. You need to realize where your intervention stops and when you should have interface or referral to government or non-governmental organizations. And if I could just briefly speak about what we've been doing in Lagos State for the past 2-3 years, we've entered into a partnership with the Christian Association of Nigeria, as well as the Islamic associations, NASFAT and Saruddin, where we're engaging because we cannot afford to be in denial. These cases are being reported at the religious institutions.
Okay.
The question is, what service are survivors receiving, upon reporting to their religious cleric. So we engage, and then what we did this year, we started off with pilots. We're building capacity of the religious leaders to be able to provide services and also make necessary referrals.
Okay, fantastic. We hope that, that can be sustained and replicated in other states. We need to bring down the numbers. Thank you so much, Titilola Vaivo Adeni, the Executive Secretary, Lagos State's Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency. It was nice talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
In a related development, we're not done with Lagos State anyway. The governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, says the Food Security Systems and Central Logistics Hub and the Psychiatric Wellness and Rehabilitation Institute, both at the K2 Adrian axis in Ekpe area of the state, will be ready next year. The governor disclosed that the phase 1 of the Lagos Food Logistic Hub will be ready in the second quarter of 2025, while the first phase of the psychiatric hospital will be delivered in the last quarter of next year. Details in this report.
During a working visit with members of the State Executive Council, government officials and journalists to the Food Logistics and Psychiatric Hospital in the Keju Ejirin K2 area of Lagos State, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu said the Lagos State Food Security Systems and Central Logistics Hub, which is the largest in sub-Saharan Africa, will ensure food sufficiency for Lagosians and stabilize market prices when completed next year. Sanwo-Olu, who expressed satisfaction at the pace of the project at the Central Food Hub, assured residents that when completed, food prices would be reduced by a significant amount in the Lagos markets.
So I'm happy that we can come and show you, gentlemen of the press, where we are. We've talked about this project. We've assured you that we're trying to build the largest food logistics, and you have seen it for yourself. So we're on track, we're on course. The phase 1 of it, with all the disruption, with all the challenges, should be ready within the second quarter next year.
During the inspection of the psychiatric hospital, Governor Sanwo-Olu said the 500-bed accommodation hospital, with facilities that include consultation rooms amongst others, will address mental-related issues in patients. He also said the project, which is expected to be completed in the next 12 months, will address the challenges faced by drug abuse victims as well as provide psychosocial support to residents.
We believe that this aspect of health delivery is equally important. We believe that we have seen enough health challenges in terms of mental health issues, and we need to, make a classic case, of this and make sure that it's first in class, the best that people can come in, come for psychotherapy, psycho-rehabilitation, and get well.
Governor Sanwo-Olu, who expressed satisfaction at the pace of the project, assured that there is no going back on the 2025 completion dates.
A bit of security now. Armed terrorists attacked the Kungurki community in Kaura Namoda, Zamfara State, killing an elderly man and abducting 13 people, including a mother and a 2-month-old baby. Counter-terrorism expert Zagazola Makama revealed the attack occurred under the cover of darkness, with gunfire spreading fear. The assailants also looted shops, stealing food, household items, and valuables. Witnesses described the ordeal as terrifying, saying women and children were targeted, while the attackers retreated into the forest. Security experts confirmed the tragic killing of the elderly victim and called for urgent action to address the growing insecurity. Coming up on the news. Opposition leader rejects Namibian election results. Details to come in a bit. Join us again. We tell you that Namibia's leading opposition presidential candidate, Panduleni Itula, has announced that his party will not recognize the result of the country's controversially extended election. Speaking on Saturday, just before polls closed on the final day of voting, Itula, leader of the Independent Patriots for Change, IPC, accused the process of being marred by chaos and alleged foul play. He noted that regardless of the outcome, the IPC shall not recognize the results of the election. He further stated that his party would pursue legal avenues to nullify the election, urging President Nangolo Mbumba to convene an emergency cabinet meeting to address the situation. The election marks a critical juncture as the IPC seeks to challenge the 34-year rule of the Southwest Africa People's Organization, the SWAPO.
In light of all these grave irregularities that has been reported by our legitimately registered representatives in various of the polling stations, we as IPC and the IPC leadership have reached an unshakable principled decision to make a statement to the press and to the nation.
Outside of the African continent, Russia has carried out a series of airstrikes in Syria on Sunday as rebels advanced towards the south, according to the UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. SOHR, in its update, stated that at least 4 people were killed and 50 were wounded in strikes inside the northwestern city of Idlib. It added that they also hit rural parts of Idlib and Hama, where the group leading the rebel offensive has recently taken control. According to the observers, the Syrian government has meanwhile lost control of Aleppo for the first time since the country's civil war began. This offensive, which began earlier this week, marks the most significant fighting in Syria's civil war in recent years. Meanwhile, Syrian military has rushed reinforcements into the Hama province in a bid to push back insurgents who are reportedly advancing into the area after seizing Aleppo. The rebels, led by the Salafi jihadi group Ayat Tahrir al-Sham, took over most of Syria's second-largest city on Saturday and claimed to have also entered the city of Hama. The reinforcements come after Syria's president said his country will defend its stability and territorial integrity. In his first public comments since the start of the offensive, late on Saturday night, Bashar al-Assad said the regime would defeat the terrorists and their supporters and would defeat them no matter how much their attacks intensify. Let's now take you to the Middle East, where Pope Francis has called on Lebanese politicians on Sunday to urgently elect a new president with a view of restoring normal government functions in the country. Francis stated that Lebanon's institutions need to start functioning normally again in order to undertake the necessary reforms and sustain the country's role as an example of peaceful cohabitation between different religions. Meanwhile, Lebanese parliamentary speaker Nabi Berri has called a presidential election for January 9 in a bid to end a 2-year leadership vacuum. Recall that Lebanon has been without a president since Michel Aoun's term ended in October 2022.
Rallegro per il cessate il fuoco che è stato raggiunto nei giorni scorsi in Libano e auspico che esso possa essere rispettato da tutte le parti, permettendo così alla popolazione della regione interessata nel conflitto, sia libanese sia israeliana, di tornare presto e in sicurezza a casa. In questa situazione rivolgo un pressante invito a tutti i politici libanesi affinché venga eletto subito il Presidente della Repubblica e le istituzioni ritrovano il loro normale funzionamento per procedere.
We talk business now. It is becoming more difficult for customers to access cash from banks, even as the Yuletide approaches. Residents of Umuahia, Abia State, southeast Nigeria, are once again forced and faced with the scarcity of cash, leaving them at the mercy of the point-of-sales merchants. News Central's Chimwegele spoke with a cross-section of the residents of Umuahia on this development. Here's a report.
Since the introduction of the cashless policy by the past administration, other state citizens have tried to adjust. Electronic transfers of money through the banks, points of sale or mobile phones have become the order of the day. However, there are still times when one needs physical cash, which causes desperation and makes the people seek withdrawals either from the bank or point of sale outlets. The challenge, however, is that those who seek cash from the banks can only receive a fraction of their request.
As you see me perambulating, going up and down, you saw cash. I have nothing now. I have gone all the ATMs, no one is working. I went to my bank, they said they are giving 5,000, 10,000. My own money is there.
But the last time I visited my bank, I spent up to 4 hours without cash. I needed up to 50,000, but they were able to give me only 5,000.
This leaves nearly everyone who needs cash with only one choice, the point of sale operators, who provide cash almost limitlessly.
Except maybe you go to POS, that's where you can have up to 100 or 150.
Some customers are accusing the banks of favoring the wealthy and the operators of these points of sale.
But surprisingly, most times you see some of these big men coming and they will go out with cash.
The bank I operate with will tell they can't give you more than 10,000. And yet, these POS operators who come there to collect huge money, as huge as 100, 200,000 naira, you see them going from the back to collect that huge amount of money and settling those staff. That is to say, they are the staff of the banks are selling the money, and yet we that are customers cannot even have access to our own money. Most of the ATMs here in Umaya don't even pay.
This bank enter business with POS people because money are there. They are doing business with our money, with POS people.
But these operators claim they equally buy Naira cash from different sources.
Even if you go to bank to take cash, they just give you like 20,000, 30,000 Naira. So it has not really been easy for us to get cash. We run around, either we go to big time businessmen and women. And even if we go to them, they charge us too. We pay to get the cash from them to service our customers.
It has been difficult to access cash. Sometimes we go to shop owners, markets to access cash. Sometimes we do go to fuel station. So they do collect charges from like 500K. They'll ask you to give them 5,000 for it. 200K, sometimes to give them 2.5, depending on how much you requested from them.
With the Christmas season around the corner, the masses are already frustrated by their inability to have cash for festivities, even as they urge the bank regulators to beam its searchlights on the activities of the banks, points of sale operators, and cashless policy. In Umahia for News Central, I am Chinwe Ugele.
We talk sports now. Ethiopia's Megetu Alemu delivered an extraordinary performance to claim victory at the 2024 Valencia Marathon in Trinidad Alfonso. Alemu won the women's race in a time of 2 hours, 16 minutes and 49 seconds, claiming the biggest win of her career, while Stella Chesang crossed the finish line in second place, breaking the 2 hour, 19 minutes barrier for the first time and improving her Ugandan record of 2 hours, 18 minutes and 26 seconds. Tiruye Mesfin came in third, improving her PB by 12 seconds to 2 hours, 18 minutes and 35 seconds. And to this other cherry news, Cole Palmer shone in a comfortable Chelsea 3-0 win over Aston Villa side, whose winless run extended to 8 matches. Nicholas Jackson gave Chelsea a 7th-minute lead, squeezing a first-time finish past Emi Martinez after Marco Correa forced Jadon Philogene into a mistake on the edge of his own box before crossing. Palmer then curled in a sensational left-foot finish from the edge of the box in the 83rd minute to seal the victory. The England international, like Jackson, now has 8 Chelsea goals for the season. Chelsea have now risen up to joint second in the Premier League table on 25 points, while Villa dropped to 12th on 19 points. Away from that, Bayern Munich striker Harry Kane has been ruled out for the time being with a hamstring tear. Kane was subbed off at 33 minutes in Saturday's 1-1 draw at Borussia Dortmund. Bayern issued a statement on Sunday saying the England captain suffered a small muscle tear in the back of his right thigh. The 31-year-old will now miss Bayern's home German Cup last 16 clash with holders Bayer Leverkusen on Tuesday. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, we'll look at our top stories again. President Bola Tinubu to co-chair 11th Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission session with President Ramaphosa. Terrorists strike Zamfara State, kill an elderly man and abduct 13. We also told you that Namibian opposition leader accuses the presidential electoral process of being marred by chaos and alleged foul play. Don't forget to watch News Central Live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onabanjo.